Hi, everybody. Oh, my Lord. Good group. Love it. So, I am Joyce St. George, and what I want to do is I want to talk about dignity. Dignity is the state of feeling honored or respected. So you can imagine what our towns and communities feel like right now. Imagine if we had renewable energy sources running through our town, like maybe solar farms or geothermic plants. Imagine if we had resources and services that kept all of us healthy and balanced. Imagine if we had children who'd be able to go to school, learn the skills, learn the knowledge, to get the jobs that are here so that they don't have to leave this area. Just imagine all of that. The problem is that right now that's all we can do, is imagine. Because right now there are very few towns that can claim to enjoy any of these luxuries. Right now we have farms that are going out of business and out of hope. We have small businesses that can hardly make it through 2 years and are in despair. We have young people who have to leave even if they don't want to because they can't afford to live in this area. We have elders who have to choose between medicine and food. This is where we live right now. This is rural New York. And it is a shame, but it is not hopeless. I'm running because I have hope in this area. I can see opportunities in this area. I can see how young people can start doing things that can revive our town, such as finding innovative ways to farm that would actually clean our streams and revitalize our soil. I can see ways that farms can survive if they just change a couple of practices, and we, from the state, help them to succeed. I can see ways that middle class and working class families can actually not just survive the way that we're doing now, but can actually thrive. Only if we can get wages up. Only if we can get taxes down. So I also am running because I want to look at our taxes. We are now paying high taxes so that rich people don't have to. We are paying high taxes so that corporations can get tax loopholes. We are doing things here that are making us weaker, and in that, causing us to lose hope. So yes, I was a corruption investigator. I actually, if anybody remembers Serpico, first of all, that ages you. I was the first female hired to investigate corruption within the entire criminal justice system of New York City. So I arrested and participated in the prosecution of attorneys, DAs, cops, judges, anybody in the criminal justice system.
One minute to it.
So that was part of my upbringing. I also have served as a board member and a chair of a board of a hospital. I now run a food pantry, which is why I know so much about poverty. I do a lot for my community because it's where I live. And where I live is where my heart is. So part of what we have to do is restore dignity. And so I'm running to restore that dignity in rural New York in District 51. Thank you guys very much.
Questions, sir, for Joyce?
That was a very powerful discussion. Could you enlighten some of us to exactly what you are running for and where you live?
I'm running for District 51, the Senate. My opposition is Jim Seward, who has been in office for 32 years. I live in the suburbs of Margaretville, New York. My main transportation is my horse. And I am running for the 51st District because Jim Seward has been my senator for many, 32 years he's been our senator. And I keep asking myself, how are we any better? I've been here 40 years, and I cannot answer that question well. Thank you.
Another question?
So Joyce, Jim Seward gives out a lot of money. How do you respond to that?
He's a candy man. Actually, I was at the NAACP picnic the other day, and they called him pork and beans. Because he brings in the pork. So let me tell you about that pork. When you have an investigative background, it doesn't leave you. You keep digging. So when I was asked to run, I said no. And after a while, somebody just said to me, don't say no until you check Jim Seward's record. So I did my homework, I checked his record, checked his contributions, called my friend back and said, I'm in. Part of what you're talking about is there is something called the State and Municipal Finance Program. This is funding that is outside of our budget. It started in 2013 with $375 million. This year, it's up to $11.6 billion. I call it the incumbent's insurance because what it does is it serves to allow assembly people and senators in New York State to give out money, to give grants, to give gifts. Now, I think that there's a certain amount of discretionary money that is important because if you are representing an area and there is something going on and you really want to help them, you may have to do something about it. But it should not be outside of our budget. We're saying that we don't have enough money. They're raising taxes on us. We have $11 billion sitting there, almost 12. What's that doing? Right? So, yes, he gives out lots of gifts. He gives fire trucks, and he gives roofs, and he gives library money. He gives all sorts of things. He gave my hospital $250,000 to put a new roof on my hospital. I'm grateful for that. We needed that. But if you go underneath that roof, and you go to the pharmacy, people are paying $60, $70, $80 for a copay. If you go next door to the ER, you're going to be paying $2,500 for a deductible. That doesn't sound right. And so, yes, he can give out Band-Aids all he wants, but he is not helping us comprehensively solve the problems in our communities so that they can thrive. He's only giving you enough gimmies so that you'll vote for him.
Another question?
It seems that there's no oversight in our Assembly or Senate or in New York State government over contractual agreements with the state. Would you like to talk about how perhaps we might have more transparency so that normal citizens can find out where contracts come from and who they go to and who appropriated them?
I would love to talk about that. So it goes hand in hand with what I'm talking about with the $11.6 billion. There is so much going on that we do not know about as citizens. We don't know contractual agreements. We don't know who's getting them, who's giving them. We don't know the sources. So how can we understand the legitimacy? How can we feel that our state is credible when they tell us, we just got this contract, or we're giving this grant out? I don't have that confidence. As a corruption investigator, I'm going to be real curious. I want to be on the ethics committee. That's where I want to live. because the Ethics Committee of New York State did not meet for 8 years. And yet, the Lulus that Chad just talked about, the money that people get for chairing these things, the chair of the Ethics Committee still got their money. So when you talk about contractual agreements, we need transparency, but you cannot have transparency with the culture that you have. So the goal is not to elect me, per se. The goal is to elect us. Because we have to change the culture, the structure, the mores, the habits. We have to change the way in which we govern. It has to be from lobby-centered, turn it into constituent-centered. And as somebody who is a constituent, I want to know where my money goes. So thank you for that question.
Okay, one more.
Joyce, implicit in your comments is a serious criticism of the Democratic Party on the state level. We do have a governor who's a Democrat, and the Assembly and the Senate are somewhat pretty much split. So I'd like you to talk about how we clean our own house. I mean, you're already implicit, you're there, but I'd like you to be a little bit more specific about that.
Sure, you want me to say everything? I ain't gonna. So, when you investigate things like ethics, corruption, misuse of power, you don't look at a D or an R or an I. When I was arresting or investigating cops or judges, it didn't matter to me who they were affiliated with. In fact, all of them in those days were pretty corrupt. It was just the way that New York City was managing its criminal justice system at the same time. I believe that this culture affects not only Republicans, but also Democrats. And I think if we could get Democrats into the Senate and the Assembly of the state, we can move that culture. We can change. The only way you're going to start straightening out Democrats is to straighten out the government. And to tell Democrats, we don't go there. We're not buying that. No more. Now we have new rules. And I know I'm just, if I can get elected, I will be a junior member. But can I tell you guys something that's really cool? So there's about 9 women running for the Senate of New York State. 4 of us have really banded together, so much so that we actually formed a coalition. And we go from Bonacek's, Seward, Amador, and Sereno. So if we all get elected, we will go from Hudson Valley to Cayuga. Now that's a hell of a swath of New York. Can you imagine if the 4 of us get in, because we're all like-minded in terms of ethics and corruption? We can't take it. We can't stand it. We want to work hard. We want to find answers. And when they're hard answers, we got to give them anyway. So in order to change this culture, we really, really, really have to get out there and support every single new person who's running, because we're too stupid to be corrupt. We don't want to be corrupt. We want to have the government that we dream of. We want the government we imagine. So that's my answer.